Gracias.
Venus Saiza Cruz spent 6 years living in El Bordo, a homeless encampment in a canal along the Tijuana River. But last month, she and about 30 other women from El Bordo came to El Cirat, a women's rehab center.
Este es el dormitorio de las señoras enfermitas.
She says she came willingly, desperate for a comfortable place to sleep and eat.
De hecho,
In fact, I arrived very crazy, very crazy.
She says her main reason for coming was to get her 9-month-old daughter back. Saiza gave birth to Juanita under a bridge.
¿Para qué así?
She was like this small. I could hold her in my hand.
Her sister-in-law agreed to take care of the baby because Saiza could not. She was using heroin and methamphetamine. But Saiza plans to stop using drugs forever.
Si ella luchó por vivir desde que nació, ¿por qué yo no?
If my baby fought to live when she was born, why can't I? I mean, God brought us here for a reason.
Aquí a todos los que nos trajo.
Saiza is one of nearly 600 people the Mexican government removed last month from El Bordo, where they lived in makeshift homes. The mayor's office released this video of what they say was activity in El Bordo. The Municipal Anti-Addiction Institute says most of the riverbed residents were committing crimes to feed their addictions, and that their presence was hurting tourism and other businesses. Over the winter, the government recruited hundreds to go to 12 rehab centers around Tijuana. Then in March, heavy rains and flooding led the mayor to order the removal of everyone living in the canal, sending them to the centers. El Bordo is now empty of residents. Local police and military drive back and forth, making sure no one returns. Government officials hope visitors will now feel safer when they cross the border on bridges over the canal. The federal government is helping the city of Tijuana with funding and personnel from Mexico City. 3 mobile hospitals with medical and dental experts visit 3 centers a week. More are expected soon. They check patients for tuberculosis, HIV, hepatitis C, and other health problems. Saiza was anemic and so malnourished when she arrived, she couldn't walk by herself.
My voice still trembles.
They also fill in cavities and give them toothbrushes to clean their teeth, often rotted due to drug use. Mexican lawyers say all of this operates in a legal gray area. The federal Mexican law regulating treatment of drug addiction says patients' stay at a rehab center must be strictly voluntary. Officials admit many of El Bordo residents didn't want help.
Generally, any drug user will reject help. They'll never accept they need help.
Even some of those who wanted to get treatment were desperate to leave when they started having withdrawal symptoms. Ricardo Lugo volunteered to come to the rehab center El Mesón from El Bordo, but going cold turkey off heroin and methamphetamine almost changed his mind.
When you arrive here, you're like, I want to leave, get me out of here. But it's a process.
Lugo lived in California for 14 years before he was deported for a DUI.
Above all, I couldn't accept being separated from my family, so I started drugging myself.
Now that his body has detoxified, he wants to stay in rehab as long as he can. He says the center keeps his mind busy and off of drugs. Patients help with the cleaning, exercise, read, learn new crafts, and more. Still, global health experts are concerned about the quality and humaneness of treatment at Tijuana rehab centers. Stephanie Strathley at the Global Health Initiative says most Tijuana centers lack methadone, an opioid that can be expensive but is used to wean people off of heroin safely.
Whether you can force people to enter drug treatment and then not provide them with methadone, which has been shown to be the only effective treatment for heroin addiction, that to me is an open question.
She says if patients relapse after abstaining from heroin without opioid substitution therapy, there's a high risk of overdose. Neither Luga nor Saiza have received methadone at their respective centers.
Compulsory drug detention centers have actually not been shown anywhere to be effective, and that's why the United Nations called for their closing in 2012.
The government plans up to 6 months of integrative treatment and says it will ensure that patients don't relapse. Officials plan to help patients return to their Mexican cities of origin after they recover. But some haven't seen those cities since they were infants and don't know anyone there. Many were born in rural areas without the tools to deal with mental health or drug addiction problems. And even with government help, Tijuana doesn't have the infrastructure either. Oscar Torres is the director of a migrant shelter in Tijuana that offered free food and other services to many in El Bordo.
45% of deportees we attend to learned to drug themselves in Tijuana once they were deported.
Torres says the government's decision to put El Bordo residents in rehab was a significant step forward, but he's worried about what will happen to those people once they're released.
The question is, and afterward, if they don't have a place to go, a social platform to receive them, surely they're going to go back to the same situation.
Seguramente van a regresar a la misma situación.
He says his shelter can't help them all. Jean Guerrero, KPBS News.